everyone. Today I'm going to be giving my insight on building an LS turbo log manifold. It's going to be kind of a budget build, so I'm going to be trying to do a lot of the work myself, but I also want it to look halfway decent. I'm not going to be trying to cut up factory truck manifolds to squeeze a piece of pipe into for my log. Driver's side, I will be using a factory truck manifold and welding on a V-band. What I have going on here is I had locally flange cut out a 1/2-inch stainless. Pretty much just brought them in, blank gasket, and they just traced it out, cut it out with a laser. Turned out really nice. Also had them cut out the T4 flange for the turbo. So that, luckily I had a decent hookup, so those pieces actually didn't cost me anything, but I figured if you were to find it locally, we'll just say $100. And then next pieces of the puzzle, got this at Ace Race Parts. Shopped around, and even locally this is probably the best prices I found. What I got here is a big chunk of 2.5, 90 degrees, then another 2.5, 45. Got a big stick of stainless laying on the floor here, 2.5, 2.5-inch V-band, and then bought 5 of these 1.5-inch weld L's. This is all 304 stainless Schedule 10 pipe. So ideally I got 5 of these pieces, obviously 4 for each port, and then the 5th one, depending on my wastegate location, will get cut up and used to attach my wastegate somewhere in the log. So I'll try to do this one-handed, but ideally, if I got these just temporarily mocked up in here, I'll be tack welding these with my small MIG welder with stainless wire. Everything will be tacked together, and then I'll bring it to somebody and have them welded up. So ideally is 45 will go back here like this, tuck it nice and close to the block so I can run my crossover to it, and obviously straight pipe through there. And then with my 90, motor's kind of crooked for mock-up purposes, but ideally the way I want this to look is probably tie in the 90 right about here. Gives me plenty of room for my heater hoses, and then so I can clear up top. I'm probably going to kick out this pipe out a little bit so I can get the turbo up away from the head. I'll have a lot of extra 2.5-inch pipe, so I might add an extension to the top side here, and then from there attach my flange, and then I'll be able to bolt up the turbo. So the pieces of pipe only cost, shipped to my door, $130, I believe, if I remember correctly. Could have definitely gotten away with only getting a 1-inch chunk of 2.5-inch, but wasn't quite sure if I needed how big of an extension I'll need, if I'll need one at all. But what we got going on is it's going to be a pretty cookie cutter budget build. We got a VS Racing 7875 going into this here C20. Already has a 6-liter swapped in. This swap has been done for past year. So we're going to add a turbo, and since this is a non-AC truck, we got a lot of open real estate here. So I'm definitely going to try to kick the turbo out as far as I can away from the head, keep it this way, and then still have enough room to run intercooler piping between the battery and the radiator here. And I'm probably going to rip the motor out at some point because there's a lot of things I want to get cleaned up. I actually want to move the motor back as far back as possible. Right now it's as far forward as possible so I could retain the stock drive shaft when I first did this swap. It has a custom drive shaft now, and I have plenty of space on my slip yoke. I can actually move everything back now to give me some more clearance for running intercooler piping and maybe an intercooler up front, move the radiator back a smidge. Also plan on closing up this hole here. That was just a hole that was there, and that's what I just ran my harness through for now. So I'm going to actually patch that up, probably paint the firewall black, clean up everything else. This is a really nice old original truck. When I got it, it was all original, unmolested, 80,000 miles, and so I'll probably clean all this up nice, make it look halfway decent. Got, you know, paint up the coils. Actually have on order is a Holley high ram. Sheet metal intake does the trick, looks good, but in my opinion I'm not a super huge fan. The only thing I really like about it is it looks decent. It's all dirty and got some water spots on it. I do drive this truck fairly often, and with the 6 liter and the 4L80, it actually moves real good. Got a Summit Stage 2 turbo cam in here. But the biggest problem I have with these intakes is they're so noisy. The valve train noise is unbelievable. So I would like something a little bit quieter. So I'll be selling that. Speed Engineering long tubes. Those will be coming off. Sell those as a pair. Running Terminator X. So should be a pretty good build. Plan on putting, this is actually an early 6.0 motor, 99 or 2000, so it's actually got a long crank flange and cast iron heads. So looking to get my hands on some aluminum 816 heads, ideally. I believe that's a Cassie number for the 6 liters. I have the little 4.8 over there as my mock-up motor that was originally in this truck. Spun a cam bearing with a sloppy stage 2 because I must have looked at the cam bearings. So yeah, I'm going to try to find some aluminum heads to get on this motor, and a lot of this is just going to get all cleaned up and tucked nice, something that looks halfway decent. Probably going to be running decapped injectors, Warbo 450. Like I said, it'll be a pretty cookie cutter setup. Pretty much going to be a budget, don't BS me build, copied by Sloppy Mechanics. So I'm just going to try to keep this thing, I wouldn't say super shoestring budget, but it's going to be done on a budget, but I also want things to look nice and perform well. One of the reasons why I'm building this log manifold, I wanted something that's actually going to look nice. I have the hookups to get it TIG welded up real nice, but otherwise I was just going to do this out of mild steel, which you definitely can do, and in my opinion just looks a little bit better rather than trying to graft a log into the factory truck manifold. So what I'll do next is I'm going to get these hopefully sitting out perfect, as close as possible, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to go through and give each of these a couple of good tacks, and then from there got a carbine bit and die grinder here because I don't have a tubing notcher, and I'm just going to start notching these so my pipe will sit up there real nice, and I'm gonna go ahead and do that, and I'll get back to you guys in a minute. Alrighty. Little update on the Turbolog manifold build. Got my weld L's tacked into place, my flange, and what I did to make it easier on myself is I flipped the motor upside down, and with an angle grinder by hand I'm grinding out the notches for the log itself to sit. Now these three are all going to be exactly the same, run it across, and then this one is where it'll turn to go up, so once I get there I'll figure out where I need to cut that and be fitting that by hand. But so far got some pretty good fitment going on. Trying to get it under a 1/4 inch, and that's well under that. Once I get it tight, just run it up to the next one, trace around with the Sharpie where it needs to be, and start going to town with the angle grinder. Keep her going. Alrighty. Don't mind the noise. Got the radio going. Pouring rain outside here in Wisconsin. Lovely 40 degrees. But got the notching pretty much set up and done. Just figured I'd stop in for an update. Start drilling my holes. Got my elbow tacked on here. And the way that she's gonna fit is just like this. Got plenty of clearance for spark plugs. Another reason why I wanted to go with this setup and build it my own way is this is going in a truck, and I got a bunch of room in there. Turn this radio down. So ideally, with the way I want this set up is I want to be able to easily access my spark plugs and not have to worry about burning up spark plug wires. So I don't know if I'll use these wires right now or the factory ones. The factory ones have the metal heat shield. I think I got one over here I can show you. Here's the factory one, metal heat shield. I should have enough clearance to run these. Might just do that. Can sell the 45-degree boot ones with the headers when I sell those. And ideally is, I've noticed with a lot of log style manifolds, they cut up pretty aggressive, and I necessarily didn't want to go, well, I got plenty of room in here, but more or less I wanted to kick the turbo out this way as far as possible, just to get it up away from the motor, put it in this big empty void here, and shouldn't have to worry about it melting anything around it. So that's why my outlet pipe is pretty much, I have it pretty much the same exact angle as the valve cover. So the way the valve cover's angled, it should shoot out here, and I should be able to put my turbo in here. I'll see if I can do this one-handed. Don't have a tripod or nothing, but this thing is not the latest thing in the world. So ideally, turbo is gonna go probably just in right here. Obviously it'll be clocked, but it's a big empty void. Should be plenty of room. As for down pipe, I'm not sure. Once I can get my log manifold tacked together and sitting in here, I can set the turbo on, get a good idea. But more or less is I got plenty of 3-inch pipe, all different bends and stuff from the exhaust kit I have on here. I'm either going to dump it inside the frame and run it back to the axle, or if I can bring myself to do it, My fuel lines, tranny cooler lines can all get moved inside the frame because I won't have these headers to worry about. And I can trim some of this inner wheel well out and dump it right in here. This truck's stock height, so I shouldn't have to worry about nothing. It's just too clean for me to want to cut a hole in the fender or the hood or anything crazy like that. So, but it'll probably end up being down in here in the wheel well. So that's just a quick little update for you. I'm definitely not an expert at fabricating, and it's my first time ever dealing with tubing like this. I did spend some time working in an exhaust shop, so I do have a little bit of understanding of welding and cutting and whatnot, but for the most part, this is all pretty simple stuff. Gaps don't look terrible. Should be plenty enough to get this TIG welded up. And I'll see you next on the next update. All right, welcome back. Got it all mocked up, tacked together. Holes are drilled into the log itself. All this crap will get cleaned up. Got our holes tacked together. Still got to attach the V-band to this side, but I'm going to wait until we can get this in the truck so I can make sure I have this clocked at a decent enough angle to where it shoots down where I need to be. I'll have to probably add an extension. So what we got going on here is the extension pipe. Obviously it's round. This is more of a rectangular shape. So what I did here is took this pipe, smacked it with a mini sledge to get it to where it would, as you can see, come together, take up the gap. And what I did is I took a couple notches out of it. So then what we can do is just fit that over there like that. Get welded up from the inside and the outside. So when it's all together, from the bottom side where you're really not even gonna see it, it'll look like this. A couple small little gaps to fill, but hopefully with taking that notch out, got enough support to where this thing's not gonna rip off from the weight of the turbo, hopefully. So we're gonna get the manifold mocked up in the engine bay, and we'll come back and see what it looks like. All right, here it is, mocked up. Turbo's just sitting on there. I got it kind of halfway clocked just to kind of figure out how things are gonna go. Still don't know how I'm gonna clock the compressor side. I might have to pull the factory jack out, which isn't the end of the world, but I got it pretty much centered where I want it to be. It's not too high, it's not too low. I think I did a pretty good job. Pull this off real quick. I'll show you guys what I did underneath there. Make sure I don't let that fall. But then there's that. Small extension piece, about 3 inches to the flange. Back here, I think I got the angle that I want. Could be clocked in towards the tranny just a little bit more. But I think that's a pretty big hole. I could probably hit that with a 3-inch pipe. But we'll see. I might actually, before I get this welded up, is bolt on the turbo, and I might actually make my downpipe right away to make sure everything fits, and also tack on my V-band, because obviously that's going to take up some room also. But for the most part, pretty happy with it. I think it looks good. Got plenty of room from the frame. The only thing I might have to do is take a carbide bit and hog out the opening for the plug a little bit more, so I can get a spark plug boot on there safely. Otherwise, it looks pretty spiffy. Pretty happy with it. Can't wait to see what this build turns into. Alrighty, bringing in another update on the turbo log manifold build with turbo LS going on in the C20. Next I'm going to focus on my wastegate. So what I got here is a VS Racing 44mm wastegate. What I did on the V-band is I tacked my pipe on here. I just had the clamp loose so I can easily turn the wastegate. And what I'm thinking is, so I'm going to sneak the wastegate right in here. So I'll get it attached in there, got it angled off so I can just shoot it and merge it into the downpipe, and it should give me enough clearance. Grab it from the bottom here and get a better picture of it. So ideally something like that. A little bit of a squeeze, but I think it'll be all right. I think it'll be good placement on the log. Should be able to shoot it into the downpipe. Should be able to clear everything. Got plenty of room. Gonna have to run the fuel line a different way, and had a ground right there that I'll have to move, but that's no big deal. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna notch this pipe, and then I'll drill a hole, tack it together, and then we'll just be just about done with this. Alrighty, got the wastegate tacked on. I think it turned out pretty good. It's in a good spot. Got gobs of room between the heater hoses. It's a little close to the tensioner, but should be plenty. And I should have a straight shot to probably clock it up a little bit, and we'll just go straight to the downpipe with it. So we'll have to get the V-band welded on the back, but for the most part the manifold build is done. Just have to get everything finished welded up, and we'll continue on this saga. I'll probably try to document the whole turbo LS build as we go along, but that'll probably be it for this video. Thanks for watching.